Thank you for joining this episode of Bright Ideas. I am Jessica Duemig. I'm the host of Bright Ideas, and I'm here today with Liz Amenta. Hello, Liz.
Hi.
Great to have you on this season of Bright Ideas. Very, very excited to have this conversation. I think we're gonna educate some people today. I think it's gonna be a good set of timing, I think.
Yeah. It should hopefully they get something.
That's always the plan, but you never do know. All right, so tell us, who is Liz?
Who is
Let's jump
Liz?
right
Man,
in.
where to begin with that question? I will briefly touch back to where Jess and I met, which was in college. I will not give a year. And it was in marching band. And I'll leave it at that. We became best friends instantly when she came to a party of mine, and here we are a lot of years later. In college, I studied accounting. I spent, gosh, a lot of years in public accounting, from entry level all the way up to senior leadership as a tax in the tax side of things. Um, and through my journey in that facet, in the ladder climber facet, I did a lot of professional development. I did a lot of new hire training, processes and procedures, just things that kind of made the everything else function better. Um, and I think that kind of drove me to the transition that I made into leadership and executive and team coaching full time and leaving kind of the trying to leave the tech stuff behind. I like to say I'm a recovering CPA.
That's a big change to go from something so technical, so detail oriented, so structured and regulated in tax accounting to coaching. That's a big leap. But you kind of touched on it. You were that person internally at your places where you were constantly learning, constantly developing, bringing up the next gen of tax accountants and probably others as well as they figured out their journey. What do you think really resonated with you with doing that? Like why did that like why did you do that? It's really
I
easy
think
to avoid.
it is easy to avoid and just like put your head down, but I think I think that's what I couldn't avoid it because my first job out of college, I didn't get training and development. And sure, you go to school and they teach you a bunch of fun stuff, and then you're like, someone hands you a paper file and they're like, "Here, prepare a tax return," and you're like, "Huh? What does that even mean?" And so after struggling kind of through my first job and trying to figure out what was like the actual process that you went through to do these things, not just the concepts, I became really passionate about new hire training because I know me, and me is if you give me the tools up front, I can go. I can just take off and go, and I don't have to ask every little tiny question that comes up in my brain, which is a lot. And so I think that is really where it started. And it just kind of new hire training and development, and then it just kind of took off from there.
So what excuse me, what was the catalyst for you to say, you know what, I'm kind of done with accounting, I'm done with tax. I want to do something different. How'd you decide to do that? And then, well, let's start there.
um, I think where it where it really shifted for me over the years was the more I developed my team and the more I developed those new hires, and the new hires became seniors and the seniors became managers, and like developing my team underneath me up, as well as all of the professional development that I did for the whole firm, like firms as a whole. It came to a point where I really enjoyed and I was energized by helping others get through their challenges, get through those little things that kind of cause hiccups throughout the day. And I mean, tax season, it's high pressure, high demand, high time, and just really helping people manage it better so they can be more successful. it kind of just became like I spent my whole day doing that, and then it was like then I'd have to review tax returns at night, and I just didn't want to do that. I just wanted to help everybody else.
Yeah, it's interesting. I always find it so telling the things you like naturally gravitate to, right? It becomes very obvious. Like I think a lot of people, in that schooling that teaches you, oh, here's all these crazy theories and whatever that you may or may not ever use or are outdated by about 25 years. Um, that people get that and they're like, yay, I graduated college, I'm ready. But like the decision you make at 18 or 19 years old as to the career you're going to have for the rest of the foreseeable whatever, right? And we all know it's not that anymore, but just for the purpose of the conversation, there's not a lot of people who are really clued in on themselves at that point in life. And really with the cost of education, with the expectations of generational X, Y, and Z that we're coming to that we came through. I don't know that it's so much that anymore, but it's hard to make that change having invested so much time, energy, blood, sweat, tears, money, everything into this is what I said I wanted to do. Like I have an advertising degree, and at the time, I didn't plan on using it. I ended up using it, but most of what I learned in school was not even applicable by the time I was back in the industry. So it's very strange to I don't want to say that the system itself is broken, but it is interesting to see how that thought process goes for a lot of people and why in middle age most people are unhappy and not making a change. But you had the wherewithal, we'll call it, to actually make that change despite expectations from society, career path, subject matter experts, whatever, mentors, family. That was a big decision. So like, sure, we all sit here, we say, man, I wish I could just do this the whole time. But how did you pull the trigger? Like, how did you actually say, you know what? I am done with tech for all intents and purposes. My full time worth of attention will go to coaching.
It was a decision that wasn't necessarily made lightly. It was something was considering more before I made the transition. It was something that had come up, and there was a business coach where I worked that popped in from time to time, and I had known him from different trainings and stuff, and so I kind of picked his brain on some different ideas, and he's the one who mentioned coaching because I was going to get a master's in organizational psychology, but he mentioned coaching, and I kind of did a bunch of research. And then different circumstances personally came up that kind of shifted a lot of other things in my life, like just outside of my professional career. And it was almost like I don't want to say my hand was forced because it was a conscious choice, but it was like everything kind of like happened all at the same time, and it was like a fresh start for me. And I don't think it has to be like, oh, my life is falling apart, make this big transition for anybody. Like it's a shame that we have to experience so much pain before we're willing to change anything. And I
What?
think that's why I think that's why I'm really passionate about it now is like you don't have to hit your rock bottom. You don't have to hit your man, where is all the time gone and why am I so miserable? Or, I just wake up every day and I do the same thing over and over and over again. You don't have to go there. You can consciously choose something else. And in the ladder climbing world that I grew up in and that I thought I wanted and that I worked really hard for, it was hard to let go of the ladder. I had to like take the hands off and then just, okay, you're gonna fall back, but it's gonna be okay.
Yeah, it's funny. I saw this what I don't know if it's a quote or a lesson or a meme or whatever, a very beautifully written piece of text on Instagram. I don't know. But it was basically like, in this society that we have, right? There's so many entrepreneurs and solopreneurs that the expectation is that if you're not doing $1 billion business, it's not successful. And the whole point, the storyline of this, and I'm realizing now it had to have been longer than just one Instagram block, but it was,
It
it
was a
was,
carousel.
yeah. It was basically saying like, look, let's say you open a restaurant and you run that restaurant successfully for 5 years and you decide to close it. You didn't fail at being a restaurateur. For 5 years, you did what you wanted to do, and then you decided to do something different. That's not a failure. That's not some existential crisis that, oh my God, I wanted to have a restaurant and it failed because I closed it. No, like you closed it because you were ready for something different. And I think that that's a really hard lesson for people to learn. I don't know that people are afforded the opportunity to learn that lesson, as opposed to like, you know, I'm going to go out and do this thing, whatever it is. I'm going to play soccer until I decide I don't want to play soccer anymore. I didn't suck as a soccer player, didn't fail as that. Did I go pro? No. Did I ever want to go pro? Also, no. So how is that expectation of a result even what you're measuring yourself against? And so
Yeah.
it's crazy when you think about what you just said about it doesn't have to take some, oh my God, my life is falling apart. It can just be, okay, this has served its purpose in my life or my point in time, whatever. And now I'm closing that chapter. I'm turning the page, whatever, for better or for worse. If it was a great experience, if it was a bad experience, sometimes things are just done. If
Yeah, and I like
Blockbuster had to close, it didn't fail.
I
It was
don't
just
know
time for the.
why.
I mean,
Let's
I'll tell
not
you what. I got $1 billion idea.
sensitive
Let's
subject.
reopen it. I'm throwing it
Reopen
out
it.
there. Let's
They
have a.
should. They should.
I could see it.
I mean, once streaming blows up, it's gonna have to go back to the basics. But
I guess so.
I like what you said though, that it doesn't have to take, like reiterating what I said, but that it can just be done. It can be that chapter is closed and it doesn't mean you failed at it or you succeeded at it. It is what it is, however it turned out. And it then leads you, it's intentional or it's purposeful because it leads you to your next thing. So whether you perceive the job you have right now as good or bad, it's put you in a position from a mindset, from financial, from location, whatever it is, to take the next step and go on the next adventure. And you and I have talked about this a lot of just you get to choose where you are and what you're doing, and you get to change that at any point in time. And because you are choosing to change that, it puts you in the power seat instead of saying, well, I'm a victim of my circumstances and I have no other options. Sometimes we feel like we do need to stay for other reasons, and that's 100% okay. But to stay just because we're afraid to look outside of the bubble we think we're supposed to be in, and when really it's like the yellow brick road, like just put down the next brick and find where the next one goes. The end goal could be the same, but take a different path.
Yeah, I always, I use myself as an example a lot of times, although I do also operate on the fact that I'm not the norm. Overthinkers Anonymous, whatever. Not so anonymous here as we broadcast this out into the ether, but
Yep.
the thought that um, you know, we all are told to have this plan, right? What's your 5-year plan? What's your 10-year plan? If I'd have planned it out however many years ago that was, and I would have said, well, when I am this point in my age and life and whatever, I want to be where I am right now and define who I am right now. Back then, I would have had a meticulous plan with every little checkpoint and blah, 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 blah. And guess what? It never would have gone according to plan, right? There would not be. And then you can start to think about, oh my God, like what could have derailed it? Where would I have been if? And really you just make the decisions when there's a decision to make, right? Whether that's with a job, whether that's with a geographical move, a shift in ideology, whatever. But I will say this, when I now look back, every single crazy thing I did in my career that was not anything that I would have planned, not anything that made sense per any book, it makes total sense how I am where I am today.
Yeah, right.
Right. I think about when I left New York and I quit my job cold turkey. And I went to Europe for 3 weeks and I traveled and I didn't have a plan or whatever. I came back and I got a job with the company that I used while I was overseas. So it's like, in what planet did 1 + 1 = 2? No, it just isn't that way. And I think it's really important message for people to know that they can change their mind. And guess what? It'll all work out. Because have you ever not landed on your feet?
Yeah, we say that a
We
lot.
do.
You know, when you're resourceful and when you have fought, and I like this quote, and I'm gonna butcher it because I don't know the exact, but it's like I'm still alive today, so I'm technically whatever age you want to define it as, and zero. Like I'm still winning
Yeah.
in life because I'm still here. And so I haven't been defeated yet. I haven't, been put in the ground or anything yet. Does it feel like it sometimes? Yes, but I've been able to get back up. And I think everybody has the ability to have that kind of resilience and keep chugging along and finding the next thing. There was something you said earlier that hit, and it was um I'll have to, it'll come up and then we'll go on a tangent.
As we do.
Yes.
So let's talk about credentialing, right? Because anyone who's looked at Pinterest or Instagram or any of the social platforms that we're all addicted to these days, there's the coaches are everyone's a coach, right? Everyone supposedly is a coach. But I know, but you did a program that is a little bit more than just I think I'm a coach today. Right. I mean, so let's talk a little bit about that program, about that credentialing. Credential is probably the wrong thing, but accreditation, I guess, is probably it.
Yeah.
Talk us through that.
Yeah, so the when I decided to go down, like, explore the coaching path, I did a bunch of research. I talked to a bunch of people, versus getting a master's. In that moment, the it kind of became clear, like, I wanted the best program. I wanted to be a part of something that was bigger than an online thing. Because if I'm going to make such a big shift, for me at least, I needed that, like, a little bit of security of, like, the program. But so I am certified through IPEC, which is one of the top tier coaching training programs, that is covered or falls under the ICF. The ICF is the International Coaching Federation, and that governs all certified coaches. And so this is like their top ranked program. The program itself is about a year long and it's intensive. It's not just an online program where you're watching modules
Get
like
certified in 90 minutes.
exactly, which there are things out there and it maybe they're okay, but it's not to the overall transformation that I had to go through that I can now take other people through because they put you through it to learn, how to do those things. So it's like peer coaching, group coaching, mentor coaching, a lot of self-reflection, a lot of, like, understanding and, like, listening, and so it's a lot of work to get to that certified place. And it is hard because there are a lot of people who have no certification, but are really consulting. They're not coaching, they're consulting. And I think I want to point out right now the difference between the two, and that is that consulting is using knowledge that you have on a subject matter and helping someone else, by using that knowledge. Coaching is removing myself from it. Like, it's not about me, it's 100% about you and what you want. And so I come in with unbiased lens, totally, on track with what is your agenda. I don't have an agenda for you. I will hold space for your agenda and your goals, but I will dig into the things that maybe I'm hearing that are under, like you may say, oh, like, from a business standpoint, my employees just don't think for themselves. I have to make every decision. So you may say that, but I might hear an underlying thought or belief system that you have to make every decision, that you feel like you have to make every decision versus, like, how can you empower them to make decisions? So anyways, it's a challenging, or it's like a thought-provoking process that we partner, but I just want to differentiate. Like, I have a lot of background in the corporate world from public accounting, and so it gives me a good sense of understanding, but I'm not consulting. I'm helping you from where you are to go where you want to go. Did I say that clearly?
I think so. I think kind of to sum it up, you're not helping them solve a problem. You're like as a consultant would do. I have this
Yeah.
problem. How do I fix it? Oh, let me use these years of experience I have with maybe
Yes.
a zero skin in the game from a I don't have to worry about getting fired, and I'll help you solve this problem. So whatever I say, it's unrestricted, as opposed to coaching, which is what do you want to accomplish? How do you see yourself getting there? What is a challenge you're facing? And how do I help you figure it out by asking questions as opposed to telling you just go make a left at the stop sign and straight on until morning.
Yes. Exactly. I think that sums it up very well.
So when you're coaching, are you coaching teams? Are you coaching individuals, like your specific brand? I know coaching does go all of the above, but how do you show up, as you like to say?
Eh, love it when you use my words against me.
I mean,
I show up because of my background in the corporate world and my experience, and because of the frustration that I experienced at all levels of my career, um, with different types of leadership and different types of management and this and that. I am really passionate about helping organizations, executives, leaders, and teams. So within an organization, you have executives, you have teams, and everybody's technically a leader, at least in my opinion. And so I really want to support that because so many people in the whole world, more people work for somebody else than for themselves. Even if I have my own business, somebody works for me, like they're employed by me. And so, how can you make those working relationships and those working situations more enjoyable for everyone to where you're reaching new levels of success? You want to go every day. You're not like, oh, I hate Mondays, which my daughter loves to say now because of Garfield. He hates Mondays, so she hates Mondays. Like how can you enjoy your life and not wish away for the weekends? I mean, if you wish away 5 days a week for 2 days, but then think about you're stressing on Sunday for Monday again. I mean, what's even happening? So that's really like where I want to serve is enjoy all of your life, but through the lens of how is your professional career sitting?
yeah, and I think that there's something interesting in what you said about, that perspective of what it means to actually enjoy your life, right? Like not wishing away to the weekend or the anxiety that comes that Sunday night. And how do you find what that is, right? Like, I mean, I always like to quote the book The Seed, and like wherever you are, you just take everything out of that experience that you possibly can until there's another experience to be had. That's cool. And that's again part of the reason why I started Bright Ideas, is because that sounds great. Wow, cool. Thanks. Now what? How
Yeah.
do I get to that step or whatever? So when you're working with these executives, with these leaderships, with what leadership positions, with these teams, where do you start? Like, how do you, not like where, we'll get to this in a second, like where does someone decide, hey, I think I'm gonna go call a coach today. Um, but where do you start in the process once they've said, hey, Liz, this is CEO number 5. I'd like to hire you to coach me or coach my team, or I want to bring you in at an enterprise level. What do you do? How does it work? What would someone who's watching this expect when you sign the papers?
Yeah, and that's a great question. There are two things that I really have had a lot of success. I like to use as tools, and I've had a lot of success with in jump starting your pathway to success. And so one of them is the Energy Leadership Index Assessment, which I am certified in. It's proprietary to IPEC. They developed it. It's a science-backed attitudinal assessment, so it's not a personality test. And what it does is it gives a snapshot of your lenses in which you view the world. So say you just come and you want to coach, you would take this assessment, we would do a debrief session together to go through it, and what you would come away with is a heightened awareness about how you are viewing certain situations. What color glasses do you put on? Are they red? Are they green? Are they blue? Are they yellow? Are they like psychedelic? And they change constantly, right? So I really like that. It does really kick off the things. So like all that building a relationship, tell me about this, tell me about that. We really jump into moving forward right away. And then the second tool that I really like to use is a values assessment. And there's a lot out there, and you've probably, people have done them, and I approach it in a way that is non-judgmental. Like I don't care what your values are. I'm not going to judge you if you don't put family on there. But let's get to the root of what do you actually value? Because a lot of times your personal values and your organization's values are misaligned, and that friction you feel at work, like you're beating your head against the wall, or okay, they said they're going to do this but then they didn't do this, or from an organization, my team members said they would show up this way but they haven't, and it's usually a conflict of values. They're not aligned. And so we kind of go through that, and those are the two real things that, okay, now we have a foundation and then we can go forward from there.
Yeah, I mean, I took the ELI because I wanted to, and it
I didn't
was
force you to, just so everyone knows. I
right.
didn't.
Well, no, I mean, we talk about this all the time, and I was kind of sitting there, I was like, well, making these assumptions, making these judgments, whatever. The minute you say it's an energy, whatever, I'm like, oh, okay. And this is my best friend. So it's like, if I'm thinking that about her, like, oh, geez, not what she's doing. So I took it, right? And we talked through it, and it was eye-opening, not in a sense where I don't want to say that it kind of opened my eyes to everything, but I think the bigger piece of it is in any, in my corporate experience, any conflict, whether it's that friction you just talked about or interpersonal conflict, is usually based in or rooted in communication. However, that's a really cool buzzword to say, oh my God, communication is key. Cool story, bro. But the communication breaks down when there's a lack of awareness, either self-awareness or external awareness. And I think what I got from the ELI is that I have these viewpoints, these ways I show up, you say lenses, I also think of it's like almost headphones, right? The way I hear things, the way I receive messages are with whatever bias and okay, fine, lens in my head
Eh,
of, well, surely they mean this. And it's like, or take it at face value, and they didn't mean anything by it. So me having the awareness of how I might receive that message is going to say, like, make me take a step back and say, okay, I heard it this way. Is that really what they meant? If the answer is yes, then boom, 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 we're firing back. If the answer is no, it's like, okay, then what? But having that awareness by doing that assessment makes me a better communicator. And I
yeah,
think at that point, it's rising tide.
absolutely. And I love the way you described it, and I love the experience you described with it, because it doesn't have to be this like eye-opening thing. A lot of people have done self-awareness work, have done self-improvement. We've read books, we've listened to podcasts, we've read things. But what it does is it gives you a snapshot of what the picture is, the picture that you see when you hear something, when you see something, when you perceive a stressor, like what happens to you. And instead of assuming, well, surely I don't do that, and it's like, nope, here's a snapshot, let's dig into it. And so that awareness then allows you to go forward in anything you do, with more intentionality and less of judgment. Actually, that's really the whole thing, is the more aware you are, the less judgment you place on things, and the less aware you are, the less conscious you are, the more judgment you place on things. And so, like, you could say, I didn't really like the ELI. And I could take that person and be like, oh man, she hates what I do. She doesn't, believe in any of it. She's my best friend, like, blah, blah, blah. Or I could say, yeah, you know what, it's just not for her. Like, and that's okay. It's not going to be for everybody. And so that's me removing judgment from her comment instead of absorbing it as a personal attack. Which, let's be honest, how many times do we get an email that has a tone that we detect? The tone is in your headphones, in your head. It
Right.
it may be real, but it's definitely coming from you.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And I think when people get put in that situation in the moment, how many times have we then kind of put our foot in our mouth based on that assumption, right? At least get the proof that someone's being a jerk, right? I mean, and that's fine.
Yeah.
We're all jerks sometimes. It happens.
Yeah.
Tensions raise, but at least in that case, going into it that you're like on a different level.
Mm-hmm. It gives you perspective too, not just for yourself, but to understand where others might be coming from. And this is what I see a lot in the work I do with teams is, oh, so and so sent me 100 emails. Do they expect me to respond to all of them right now? But so and so says, I'm gonna fire off a bunch of emails when I'm all over in meetings. When I sit down, I'm gonna fire off a bunch. I don't expect you to respond to them all the time, or right away. I'm just getting it all off my brain. But then so you say, yes, I get it. But then when they're received, you're like, oh my gosh, they're blowing up my inbox. And then back to the other side, the person who sent it, they're saying, well, how come they're not responding to my emails? They're ignoring me. Why are they purposefully ignoring me? And so you see how, like, and this is a real dialogue, like that happened with several times with a client. And it's that storyline you tell in your head. And so even though you may show up intentional, like, hey, I'm going to fire them off. I don't expect you to respond. In the moment, we still have our like default trigger of you're flooding me with things or you're ignoring me.
Yeah, there's a feature that Microsoft Outlook just added when you send an email outside of standard working hours. It says, are you sure you don't want to send this during normal working hours? And I cannot figure out how to disable it. And it's pissing me off because I'm like, these are my normal working hours. Stop judging me, Outlook. Like, if I have to send an email at 10 o'clock, again, to your point, do I expect a response at 10:05? No. But guess what? I'm on the East Coast. My 10 o'clock is your 7 o'clock, right? Not you, yours is 8 o'clock, whatever, not the point. But I work with a lot of people on the West Coast. So, okay, Outlook, first of all, no, like read the room, but separately
Read the
from
room, Outlook.
right, you
Get some
machine.
awareness,
Yeah,
Outlook,
take the ELI
Microsoft.
Outlook. God.
Gee.
But yeah, and I saw one time someone actually wrote in their thing, my working hours may not be the same as your like their signature. Please respond at your discretion, right? I
Hmm.
don't expect you to be working at 10 o'clock at night, but I am. I also don't start work till 10 in the morning because guess what? I'm not a morning person and I'm useless before then. And when I say start my day, that's when I get my coffee. So we can fast forward another 45 minutes till my brain is like, oh, caffeine, right? We're supposed to work now. So, but you're right. It's all those biases. And I was just thinking about this, and I don't know that we've ever talked about this, but coaching in a business sense, and this season on Bright Ideas, I have a lot of people in the sports industry and you're one of the few that's not falling directly into it. And I always like reassured you as we were talking, are you sure this is the right one? I couldn't really figure out exactly why. I was like, yeah, of course this makes sense. Like in my head, this makes total sense. And here's why I figured it out finally. Oh. It is because if you look at coaching in business or life the same way you would look at coaching in sports, it is the same thing, right? I want to get better as a baseball player, as a hitter. So I go take batting practice with someone who's going to be the unbiased third party watching me and seeing that I drop my shoulder or I switch my hips every time, or I have a tell or whatever. And so they're not judging me like, oh, you're so dumb, you dropped your hip. It is a physiological whatever, right? That happens whether they necessarily want it to or not. Flash forward when you fix that, right? So, oh, you drop your shoulder, your hip in baseball. Okay, cool. But in receiving an email on a Tuesday night at 10 o'clock, you're automatically assuming they expect me to respond right now. Well, guess what? It's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to identify that, oh, well, you're assuming that you're dropping your hip. You're assuming they want you to respond. It's like, wait, they're not assuming that? Wait, I do drop my hip? I never saw it. I keep saying hip and I mean shoulder, whatever. Um,
I mean, maybe hip, I don't know.
maybe both, maybe they're connected, maybe that's the whole thing. But the point is, like, that person is not there to make you feel bad about yourself. That coach is not being like, oh my God, you suck at baseball. You're never going to get better. It's like, no, just stop dropping your hip and you should be fine. Right? Stop assuming they expect you to respond at 10 o'clock at night and you'll be fine. Right? So
Yeah, and
it's
it's
definitely a
that
tie there.
it's that unbiased, like, sure, my bias is that I want success for you, but it's got to be success for you in your systems and where you're at. I can't say go do this and everything will be fine. I have to observe, like the pitching coach or the hitting coach has to observe. Let me step back and see it from a bigger picture. You're in the weeds of it. You're focused on the ball and the bat, and that's like basically the ball. That's it, right? And so let me step back and take it from a bigger picture and see what other influencers are going on that you don't realize because they're default and they're unconscious. It's the same in how you react to an email. It's an unconscious default reaction. And it's like, how can you become more conscious of those things so that you can get better? So you don't fire off emails that are passive aggressive or sarcastic or like,
Or
you
just
know.
aggressive.
So it's like, it's just great raising that conscious level. And yeah, as a coach, I'm here to be your cheerleader. I'm on your team. Like I'm here to help you get better. No judgment of where your starting place is.
Yeah, and something you said too in defining that success, it is the person who's being coached defining that success. You're not
Yes.
coming in with like, okay, well, success looks like this, so how do we get you here? It's like, what does success look like to you? And whatever that is great, right? Do you want to make $1 billion? Do you just want to put food on the table and not have to think about where your next meal is coming from? What is your definition of success? And then how do we get you there?
Yeah. And we've come full circle as we usually do, because in the beginning you started with, it doesn't have to be this one job the whole time. It can be like, hey, you know what? I played soccer. I got to this point. I didn't fail at it. I just decided I chose not to go forward. And so it is your definition of success. It is not life is not pass fail, like it's not. And so that's really like shifting the mindset from if I am not if I'm not on top, then I'm losing. It's got to be, what are all the things that just it's the journey, right? It's how do we grow?
Yeah. So let's talk about this. Where does so someone's watching this, someone's maybe been thinking about it, maybe they haven't been thinking about
Mhm.
coaching or something needs to change in their life. Maybe they haven't gotten there. What do how do they start this coaching process? How?
Yeah.
Not
I think
everyone's best
that's
friend's a coach. Like,
I think that's it. You're just like, I don't like where things are, but I don't like where do I go? What do I even do? So things clients will say are like they're overwhelmed with too many responsibilities. They're frustrated that they can't get ahead. They're constantly like surviving. They're just like every day is putting out fires, problem solving. They want less stress and they want to do more with less time, and they want um they just want more control over their life. And I think that's not something they think about up front, but ultimately, how can you feel like, okay, I'm driving my own bus right now instead of this auto drive is out of control and I need to get off. I'm car sick or I'm bus sick. Like I need to get off the bus right now and figure out a different transportation because this is not working anymore. And so that's really kind of the starting point. And to be fair, it may not even be like, hey, I don't like where I'm at and I don't know what it is I need more of. It could be that, but it could also be like, hey, I've gotten this far and I feel really good about it. I don't know how to get to the next level. I don't know how to level up. I don't know how to play bigger, but my idea of success is I want to play bigger than this. That's where I come in.
Well, there you have
There you have
it. There you have it. So let's talk a little bit about people who maybe say, like the Google doctors, right? Like, oh, I'm sick. Let me
it.
Google it. I can do this
WebMD.
myself. Yeah. What do you say to people who are like, look, I don't need a coach. I can read the book. I can go on Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook, blah, 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 whatever. I can do this myself. I don't need a coach. Like, what do you say to that?
I say, yeah, you can. Everybody, knowledge is out there, and 100% you can go find knowledge. But or let me back up. You can 100% find knowledge, and it will take you a long time to absorb that knowledge and put it into practice while also dealing with daily life, which is just, it is what it is, right? With a coach, you get to expedite those results. You get to jumpstart and move so much faster to get where you want to go because you have someone guiding you and helping hold you accountable, keeping you on track, but also using their wisdom. Like the wisdom that I have, again, not from consulting, but my coaching wisdom of how to draw out the results, how to move things forward, that's gonna propel you and get you where you want to go faster instead of feeling like, oh, this is gonna take forever. Or, oh, I read one book, I should be fine now. And then you're like, you're not. And it's just because
Right.
life keeps happening. You need help. Like, it's okay.
Yeah, it's funny, uh the it's okay part of that is probably the most interesting piece of it, right? I mean, the rest of it's interesting too, of course, but it's okay to need help. It's okay to consult an expert who isn't under your same veil, lens, headphones, whatever. That person's going to bring something in, and it's a little. I'm going to be judgy for a minute, and because I've come across this myself. It's a little self-serving to think you can do everything by yourself all the time, right? I can't do my books. Can't do them. Feel like a monkey playing with tools. Doesn't work. I need help. I get help. It's great. Love it.
But
Not the point.
real quick though, you can do your books. You don't want to, which is 100% okay. And so just because you ask for help doesn't mean you're not capable. It just means you spending all this time on your books when you could get somebody else frees up all this other time and brain space to do something else you enjoy.
I think you hit on a big one too that maybe people don't realize, and I certainly didn't realize until, talking out more about it, was this brain space, the concept of brain space. I don't think everyone realizes how much certain things take up in your brain, how much space they take up in your everyday living rent free in your mind, whatever.
Mhm.
Um, I don't think people realize how big seemingly little things are, right? And I can give an example. When I lived in South Florida, I bought a house, and it was fine. It was fine, right? I could afford it. I didn't have to worry about it. But the day I sold that house was the day that my brain was like, la, 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 la. Like it was flowers and rainbows and sunshine all over again. And it sounds so dramatic, but that one little thing that I didn't think was just a normal thing that everybody does. Like you buy a house, you make your garden, whatever, was not for me. right? At that point in my life was not for me, felt like a burden. And I didn't realize just how much until the day I sold that house. And I was like, holy shit, like this is a whole different world that for 2 years was so squashed literally and figuratively by the weight of having this house, and not the house, but what the house represented. That
Yes.
stuckness, that roots, what does Einstein say? Like, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it's going to be terrible. Like those roots exist there. That's a terrible, terrible example. But those roots exist for certain people at certain times. And for me, I was a fish. I had no need for those roots to be that tree, to be stuck in that spot. And in talking about it and figuring it out, we came to the conclusion that this is just not the right thing. And there was no judgment. Oh, how stupid were you to buy a house? No, I mean, it wasn't stupid. It actually turned out to be a great investment, but not the point. Um, but this person, this coach can help you uncover these things that maybe you have no reason to think is harming more than helping.
Yeah, you're not even questioning it because in your mind, you're like, everybody has a house. This is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to put down roots, right? Like supposed to, and the shoulds, and the so you don't even question it. And the fact of the matter is the time, the day and age we live in is different than our parents, our grandparents, our great grandparents. No matter what generation you are, we're all a product of a previous generation and those ideas. And so the belief system that we're all supposed to buy a house and put down roots and this will solve, you don't realize it at the time, and maybe it does solve, maybe it does give somebody a sense of purpose and belonging and like ownership because they never had that growing up. But for others it invokes a different feeling, and again, all of them are valid, completely valid and okay. It's what does it mean to you, and is it helping you or is it holding you back? And I think once you explore, like once we explored, like, okay, how does the house feel? We explored everything else, but then it's like, well, where do you feel most stuck, like inside? What weighs you down? And a lot of times it's the things you don't expect because you just think this is normal. And
Right.
and it's like, you know what? We're gonna challenge the status quo and just see what happens. That's it. We don't have to do anything. We can just challenge it.
Yeah, and you know what I find to be even more telling, and relating this now back to business and all that, you as a leader, you as a team builder have no clue about what that is. The same with sending the email at 10 o'clock at night, not expecting it to be answered. You have no clue what people are going through. You have
No
no
clue.
clue that this house is making Jess feel like blah, 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 blah. And that's constantly weighing, and she's not even thinking about that consciously, right? And yet we're going through our day in parallel, making constant assumptions along the way about everything. And I think that goes back and bring it 87 full circles, right? To understanding your personal bias and how you are immediately knee jerk reaction on receiving that message or that situation, and understanding again what energy level you're showing up. Are you seeing yourself as the victim? Are you seeing yourself as the dominant person, or having to be the dominant person, or whatever, on those different levels? Again, all something that can be figured out through the assessment, the ELI assessment, and then that debrief. So if people were going to take just one thing out of this whole conversation, right? We've been talking for almost an hour on recording. If they were going to say, "Wow, here's what I got out of that," what do they need to take from this video?
I mean, I think the most impactful thing that people, I hope people take away from is that you don't have to be stuck. And stuck can mean whatever it feels to you. And that you are at choice. You may not feel like it, and that's okay. A lot of times we don't feel like anything is in our control. But imagine if it were. Like, just imagine if you felt like you were driving your boat and not letting the current take you. And what would that do for you in any aspect of your life? You know, if you had the oar and you're steering, where would you go? What would you do? And then just start down a path. That's a starting point. Then just start down a path of exploration.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I think that there's lots of different ways to cross that ocean, right? And you can only
Mhm.
figure it out once you start paddling.
Exactly.
That's cool.
Exactly.
Awesome. So Liz, how do people get in touch with you? You coach in person, but you also coach virtually.
Mm-hmm.
So someone sitting anywhere in the world could essentially hire you as a coach or take the ELI or whatever. Talk to us about how they get in touch with you.
Yeah, email, phone, my website is amentacoaching.com, and we can make sure it's in the comments or the post. Is the best place to find some of the different things. There are a couple different ways to, kind of keep in touch. One is to join the newsletter, which there's a link on my website. Another is to take the ELI. It's kind of like your introductory, like try it out. And with the ELI assessment, you get a 60-minute one-on-one debrief where we go over your results. And so that's like a good kind of entry level foot in the door. Let's just see what it's about. And then from there, there are 3-month and 6-month coaching packages, as well as, you know, we can um, we can systematically, put together a package that works for whatever organization, the thing the organization wants, whether it's training and development, etc. But back to how can you reach me, through the website, amentacoaching.com, and then LinkedIn. Um, that's the best way.
Awesome. So we'll put all that information in the write-up. We'll certainly make sure that everything is tagged when we post this all on social media. So have no fear. If you're considering coaching, you can absolutely um, figure out how to get in touch with Liz or any other coach, right? I mean, I think you have to find a coach that also fits from a just vibe perspective. So we
100%. 100%. And I understand that. And I would not want anyone to coach with me if they didn't feel like a good connection. And I have a, a network of people that I went through training with that I'd be happy to, refer out to.
love it. So we'll make sure you have all that information. Liz, as always, a joy to chat.
A joy. Thanks
A
for having
joy.
me. I'm so excited I got on season two.
Yeah, no,
Season
and
three. Wait, two? Three.
season two.
Oh, I'm ahead of myself. I'm ready for season three
I
now.
mean, stand by. That list is coming soon of who's going to be on that one. But for now, we are in season two. Thank you for tuning in to Bright Ideas. As I mentioned, I am Jessica Duemig, and we'll see you on the next episode.